in the NFL, it seems like almost every year there's that one team, rather division, that going into the playoffs, we know that that division really isn't a threat. And for years, we looked at the AFC South, where it was essentially Andrew Luck, just dominating everyone. I mean, I don't think the Tennessee Titans ever beat Andrew Luck. The Houston Texans never had a quarterback. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars were just awful for 10 plus years. And when Andrew Luck hurt his shoulder, it became essentially mediocre teams just trying to battle it out, trying to see who could get 9 wins to win the division. And for years, that was the AFC South. I think we've since moved on from that. I think all the teams have gotten pretty good. And the AFC South is no longer the laughingstock in terms of playoff races in the NFL. I look at this past season. The NFC East was terrible. The Philadelphia Eagles were 5-7. 5-7. That's 2 games under 500 with 4 games left to play. And they somehow made the playoffs. And they didn't make the playoffs as a wild card. They outright won the division with single-digit wins. It's just a shame that there always needs to be this division that really doesn't even deserve to be in the playoffs, but they somehow get in because of the NFL's playoff format. And I think we've seen the script sort of flip in the NFL. If I had to pick which division that's going to be this year, and maybe even for years to come, I would say it's going to be the AFC East, which sounds crazy because you look at the AFC East and you say, whoa, the Patriots, they've been dominant for 20 years. How can you call their division the new laughingstock of the NFL? Well, it's simple. The Patriots are getting old. The Patriots are getting really old. And then you look at the young players they did have, they've slowly but surely lost player after player in free agency. My 2 favorite examples, obviously, following the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, the team decided to move on from Malcolm Butler. That was their best corner at the time. He's gone. This past summer in free agency, Kyle Van Noy, who was their best linebacker, arguably, maybe he or Jamie Collins, depends on who you're talking to. Kyle Van Noy not only left the team, but he left the team to go to a division rival Miami Dolphins. And the reason I think that this division is not going to be that good is because you just look down the list. There is literally no experience in this division. And when the playoffs roll around, experience is everything. The team that's been there, done that, has a huge advantage over a young team who's finally making their first playoff appearance. Now, obviously, we know Bill Belichick. He's been to so many Super Bowls. He's made so many playoff appearances, winning season after winning season. How can you say the division has no experience? Well, you take a look at everything but Bill Belichick. Adam Gase, 1 playoff appearance, 0-1 in the playoffs. Sean McDermott, 2 playoff appearances, 0-2 in the playoffs. And Brian Flores has been a head coach for just 1 season in which his team finished 5-11. So outside of Bill Belichick, you look down the other 3 head coaches, and they've combined for just 3 playoff appearances without a single playoff win. And it doesn't stop at coaching. You look at the quarterbacks. Sam Darnold, still on his rookie contract, has yet to make a playoff appearance. Josh Allen, still on his rookie contract, 1 playoff appearance, 0-1. And then we even look at the Patriots. Jarrett Stidham has never started an NFL game and has attempted just 4 NFL passes. And we expect him to enter this season as the Patriots starting quarterback. And then to make things even worse, I mean, at least Stidham had a season in the same locker room with Tom Brady, and he got to maybe learn a little bit from Tom. The Miami Dolphins have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who at, I want to say, 36 or 38 years old, somehow has never been to the playoffs. And then their other option is Josh Rosen, who, once again, on his rookie contract, never been to the playoffs, never even started a full season. And then they spent their top draft pick this past draft on Tua Tagovailoa, who's a rookie. So you look down the list of quarterbacks in this division. You have 0-1 in the playoffs, never made the playoffs, never even started a game, and never even started a game, with their other option having never even seen the playoffs in 15 plus years. So how can a division have so little experience, even though the NFC East hasn't been particularly good for a really long time? They at least had Eli Manning, who's been to and won 2 Super Bowls. The AFC South at least had Andrew Luck, who had made playoff appearance after playoff appearance. You look at that for the AFC East. Who's that guy? They have Bill Belichick, but for the first time in 20 years, he's without Tom Brady. And the last time he didn't have Tom Brady, which was the 2008 season, the team missed the playoffs. Albeit they did have a good season. They finished 11-5 with Matt Castle. They still could not squeak in. And the reason, obviously, Buffalo's coming off a great season. They won double-digit games. They had a magnificent defense. So people might ask me, why do I think, we should just scoff at Buffalo? And the reason for that is I think Buffalo has really hit their ceiling as a team with Josh Allen. It's the same reason I'm critical of Lamar Jackson. It's just that you need a quarterback who can throw the ball down the field in order to win in this league. You look at the Baltimore Ravens. They went 14-2. They creamed almost all of their opponents. When the playoffs rolled around, they got one and done by a 9-7 Titans team that barely made the playoffs. So what is the ceiling for these teams that have mobile quarterbacks who maybe don't have the most accurate arms? Josh Allen, despite the fact his team made the playoffs, he barely eclipsed 3,000 passing yards, and in his 2 NFL seasons has yet to complete over 60% of his throws. Is that the quarterback production that you're supposed to ride to a championship? No, it's just not going to work like that. I look at Miami. I love what they're doing in Miami. Chris Greer and Brian Flores are extraordinary at their jobs. Greer has done a great job with free agents and draft picks, whereas Flores has really got his locker room to buy into him and his defensive mindset. However, with that said, I do think it's a year too early. They added a lot of pieces at once. A lot of those pieces were young, and I just don't think they can integrate so many new additions in so little time. Kyle Van Noy, Byron Jones, Jordan Howard, and a handful of high draft picks. I just don't see how they can make all these pieces work at once. I think Miami is going to be a future powerhouse, but I think we're just a year too late. The Jets. If you want the truth, I like the Jets more than I like any other team in this division, which is weird because, the Jets haven't really been relevant since somehow Mark Sanchez got to an AFC Championship game. But the Jets, although they weren't huge additions, they did manage to make additions at the positions that matter the most. Their offensive line was struggling. Their young quarterback Sam Darnold was getting lit up on almost every play. They used their top pick on Mekhi Becton, who we at least hope will turn out to be an elite offensive lineman. But hey, they added a new lineman to protect Sam Darnold. In the second round, they were able to acquire a receiver, Mims, who we don't know what he is, obviously, because like Becton, he's a rookie. But the point is, they used their first and second draft pick to address a position of need. More importantly, they used it to address a position on the offensive line. And people, although the Jets are coming off a 7-9 season, I think the Jets were a pretty good 7-9 team. The reason I say that is because at the beginning of the year, something really weird and unheard of happened. They lost their starting quarterback, Sam Darnold, to mono. That's something you don't see that every day. Their backup quarterback, Trevor Siemian, broke his leg in just his first start. So at the beginning of the season, the Jets were starting Luke Falk, who had never even played in an NFL game, and he was now their starting quarterback. Predictably, the Jets didn't win a game with Luke Falk. He was subsequently cut at one point during the season. And by the time Sam Darnold got on the field, the damage was done, and the Jets were really in a hole too deep to dig themselves out of, regardless of how good Darnold could have played. With that said, Sam Darnold and the Jets went 5-2 over their last 7 games, which I understand 7-9 isn't great, but when everything was together, when Sam Darnold was on the field and had his opportunity to get his feet wet with the offense, they went 5-2, 3 games over 500, and the Jets played their best football of 2019 when Sam Darnold was on the field in the latter half of the season. I think, honestly, that 7-game stretch is probably the most respectable thing we have out of any team in this division. And if I needed to make a prediction, I would say either the Jets or the Bills are going to limp into the playoffs with maybe 9 wins. I don't see any team running away with the division. I think the Jets or the Bills will sort of back their way into the postseason with a 9-win season. Another thing that should be noted is that the Jets dealt with a lot of injuries last year. They lost Sam Darnold. Le'Veon Bell missed a handful of games. And the biggest one was they added C.J. Mosley in free agency to be their new cornerstone franchise linebacker. And Mosley missed a good chunk of the season. So that's all worth being noted. Hopefully they will remain at full strength this year, and we can see exactly what they do when they're together.